Hello my friends, how are you all? Hope you're alright and that. So we're on our way out through Marin County and that. We're going to go to one of the little natural tunnels out in California. So I thought I'd take you for a bit of a tour around here. Around, there we are, I have a trusty Mazda CX-5 and some of the twists and turns. There's some good roads out here all the way out to the natural tunnel, which is a tunnel created by trees. Here we have some good roads, really good roads, and that to test out the Mazda CX-5's handling. So far I've already done a little bit of a test in that, and the biggest and what I can confirm is that the US spec Mazda CX-5 does ride softer than the Australian spec models, and mainly it's through the rear dampers. The rear dampers are around about 10 to 15% softer than an Australian spec model, and the fronts are probably around about between 5 and 10% softer than an Australian spec model again. So you notice it on a lot of the undulations on the American interstates, freeways, etc., when you might have, say, two or three successive bumps in a freeway on ramp or something like that, and the car will the car's rear end will raise a little bit. It'll raise a little bit and fall, and it'll float again for a bit, just to give that little bit more of a relaxed ride in the rebound settings. The downside, though, I've pushed it pretty hard and it doesn't have any traction control switch which you can turn off. And the thing is, though, when you're pushing this car hard, it understeers early compared to an Australian spec model. There is a little bit of a compromise in the handling. The primary ride is quite firm but controlled. But when it comes to the bigger undulations and the bigger crests, it does tend to rise and fall a little bit. Not floaty like a Lincoln Continental or anything like that, or a Chrysler 300 or anything similar, but definitely noticeable compared to an Australian or European spec suspension version. And but yeah, part of the blame also is these all-season tyres. They give up early, and I've also criticised all-season tyres previously on my Chevy Camaro, where they squeal in the dry and slip in the wet. So it's probably best off to, one good step is to go invest in some good summer tyres. I don't mean Toyo A36s, whereas Australian spec and European spec cars have Toyos, but not the all-season variety like these. And you can tell by the small sipes in the tread. So yeah, we'll have a bit of a look. I'll open the door, and you'll see what I mean. But when you look at the little pad, little switch pad over here, normally you have a traction control off switch, and it's only things we have are just the tailgate adjustment. Not tailgate. That's the hill holder. That's the off-road mode. That's the tailgate switch, and the lane departure off switch. So, but in the MZD settings, there is no provision to be able to turn the traction control off at all. So the traction control is permanently on in US spec models, whereas in Australian spec and European spec, there's a traction control off switch. Let's go and have a look and see. So what have we done so far? We've done 4,678 miles on the odometer, so that's what we pick it up with, 4,339 it was. So 4,339, 4,639, that's 300 miles. So near 339 miles, 340 miles, so that's what's that? So that's 48, 52, about 540 odd kilometres we have done so far. Now, fuel consumption readings, 24.3 miles per gallon, US gallon, that's around about, probably in the high, around about the mid 9 litres per 100 Ks, when you convert the US gallon back to litres per 100 Ks from miles. 69 degrees Fahrenheit outside, 21 Celsius. So yeah, we'll have a better look-see. That's where we are here at the moment, and keep forgetting the name of the place we're going to. I just said it was a natural...
The Cypress Tree Tunnel.
The Cypress Tree Tunnel. Thank you very much, my dear. The Cypress Tree Tunnel, that's where we're heading to. That's our current position, some good roads. And this is where we are in the American continent, for those who are interested. So if I zoom right out, there we are. It's upside down that, but this is USA. This is USA, there's Mexico, USA, Canada, Alaska. There you go. That's where we are, so we'll just zoom back to where we are. No, we're not in Manitoba in Canada at the moment. So if I zoom back out, there we are. So I'll hand it to you, my sweetheart. You take care, and I'll zoom that map in a bit. There we are, Lucas Valley Road. What was the name of the place? I've bloody forgotten.
Cypress Tree Tunnel.
That's right, yeah. Must be getting older and bloody old timers disease setting in. But that's not a laughing matter. Okay, so drive, release the park brake, and away we go. It's all clear. The mirrors, blind spots, mirror signal manoeuvre. Away we go. So you'll see what I mean about the handling in comparison to an Australian spec CS5 and a European one. So I'll up the ante, but you'll see what I mean by early understeer, slightly floaty suspension when pushed. So yeah, you'll see what I mean. I up the ante. I shift it manually. Let's have a look. 25 miles an hour, 40k right handers coming up. Doesn't have any pedal shifts for the auto, which is a surprise. And on the straight it's composed enough. Starts to show up. So sudden transient manoeuvres like that, a little bit of float on the rebound.
Oh, that was a float. Oh, just the suspension, that was real floaty then.
That's it, absolutely. And you could just, as I said before, and you notice the floatiness in the suspension under these manoeuvres, plus on the freeway, motorway, and that when you're getting any successive hits in succession, where the American spec suspension is floaty on the rebound. As I said before, it's around about, I'd say around about 10%, between 10 and 15% in the rear dampers, rear shocks, and around between 5 to 10 on the fronts. And you can even notice that straight away, even if you're going over a speed bump. The first thing you notice is that the front end is firmer than the rear. And the problem is that when you start to soften the rear end, you reduce the roll control in the rear as well. You'll increase understeer, and that's the thing. So in the handling department, it's not as sharp as an Australian spec Mazda CX-5, not as sharp. But the good thing is the steering feel remains the same, so there's plenty of feel through the steering. But the steering, as I said in my initial assessment, it is a little bit quicker to turn in, whereas you turn the wheel this much, the car turns. This much, the car turns. For an Australian model to get that same amount of steering, so you can see, we'll wait till you get a clear section, it's more like this much to get that same earlier response. And that's one of the key differences. But you notice that the North American market, with American suspension, American drivers, always, generally speaking, always prefer ride quality over handling. That's always been the case. And when I say ride quality over handling or handling prowess and precision, I'm not talking about a Lincoln Continental or a Lincoln Town Car or a Chrysler 300, which I had over here a long time ago, which floats as soon as you hit a cat's eye or a bloody painted line. But I'm just talking about just biasing the car towards ride comfort, and that means, as I said before, over the progressive crests and the dips, it takes a while for the body to rise and float, and then also correspondingly it takes a while for the body to fall on the suspension. And that's the thing. But that doesn't mean that this is a bad handler. Far from it. Still controllable with safe, predictable understeer. It does understeer earlier than an Australian spec model. Look at the trees. Just look at them, for God's sake. Look at it around here. It's magnificent, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Going all the way to the Cypress Tree Tunnel, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'm going to have to start taking post-it notes every time we do videos now. Bloody hell, must be getting to that age in life.
Cue cards.
Cue cards, and with the cue cards you're going to have to get a wand with them too to point out every word in the sentence. That's the bloody thing.
Video prompter.
Video prompter, yeah. Oh, don't laugh, it's probably going to be a reality. It really is. God, magnificent, isn't it? Different to, say, O'Reilly's in Queensland. Different character to O'Reilly's. Just look at it. Now we'll just ease up this into a more sedate pace. Just take it all then.
In half a mile at the end of the road, turn right.
There you go, half a mile, 802 metres. There you go. But yeah, it's just, that's beautiful through there, wasn't it? It's
yes.
magnificent. All the redwoods, the California redwood trees.
At the end of the road, turn right to Nicasio Valley Road.
Nicasio Valley Road, that's where we're going to chuck a right. There you go, you're on stop sign junction. Fairfax 9 miles, 14.5 k's. Nicasio, half a mile, 802 metres.
Turn right to Nicasio Valley Road.
So the RT junction and the slip lane, which are controlled by stop signs. There we go. And like bloody 90% of drivers over here, the American drivers don't come to a complete stop, even though it is an actual requirement to do so. So yeah, no, so but that being said, though, with the American spec suspension of this car and that, do I think it's a shitbox because it's been softened up? No, I don't think it's a shitbox. I mean, I still love it, but if I was to have one, I would have to change those crappy all-season tyres and squeal in the dry, slip in the wet. It's a bit like giving Carl Lewis a 100-metre sprint and giving him a pair of comfortable slippers to do it in. It's really no different. And so I changed the tyres. That's the first thing I do, and I change both front and rear suspensions. I will change.
Left to Nicasio Valley
It's actually
Road.
straight ahead to this road.
Proceed 3.5 miles on Nicasio Valley Road.
And yeah, so change the tyres, change the suspension both front and rear to make it firmer. And the ride height's no problem. That's the same. The ride height's exactly the same as an Aussie or Euro spec version. It's no different at all. So yeah, get those two things adjusted, it'd be diamond. So what do you think, my dear? Do you reckon it's a shitbox because it's got the American Jello suspension? What are your thoughts on that?
No, it's still a good car.
Yeah, bloody oath it is, yeah. Even though it is funny it is a bit of a laugh when you're going over crests on the interstate at 75 miles an hour, 120 k's, and the car's going like this.
It's like a magic carpet ride.
Absolutely. But the primary ride's firm though, so you can feel everything. You can feel the road underneath you and that, and good steering feel. Mild amplitude bumps feed their way through your keystone. And but yeah, on the big undulations, I always have a good laugh. But I still love you, Mazda CX-5. But yeah, so we did the handling test and that. So yeah. Anyway, so we'll do another video very shortly. Anyway, you can see the cypress tree tunnel and that, and more depth. So do stay tuned. 35 miles an hour, 56 k's. Drop it down. So yeah, not bad at all. All right, we'll talk shortly. So, until now, au revoir.